Hey there, this is Kiel Lindsey, your Property Geek, with your October 2025 Haslet real estate market update. When telling the story of the real estate market, it's really a story of supply and demand. So what I'm going to walk you through today is one, what's happening with housing supply, two, what is happening with buyer demand, and three, how those come together to give us our current market outcomes, sales price and things like that. So stick with me today. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's get straight into the numbers here. First up, we have active inventory. This is the number of actual homes for sale right now on the market here in Haslet. So combined, we have 358 homes for sale. That is up 22% from last year. Now, and that's this green line here, I like to break most of these stats out by resale versus new construction. I do that because they tell two different stories, really. And if you're selling a home, if you're thinking about selling your home soon, you need to know what the resale market's doing. If you're buying a home, well, you need to know the difference between buying a resale home versus new construction, what that looks like. So looking at that, new construction is actually down 4.7% right now, while resale is up 37.1%. So in other terms, if you're a buyer, there's less competition or less choice for buying new construction, and you have more to choose from when doing resale. As a seller, having less new construction for buyers is actually a good thing. However, your competition is getting more and more fierce with more homes for sale. The next stat I want to dive into is new listings, and this is a driving factor for the actual homes for sale because, well, without new listings, the number would never go up. Looking at this, overall construction types, we are down 2.3% for new listings. This is actually pretty normal this time of year. As we move into the fall and winter seasons, we always tend to see a decline in the number of listings and homes for sale. And when looking at this number, resale actually is still up 19.9%. New construction, though, is down by 30% versus the same time last year. And that's really driving this drop here. You would like to see resale following the same pattern of dropping as well. However, this year we have seen more and more homes for sale, even in a cyclical year. So the fall dropping in listings, we are still seeing more listings for sale on the market for resale than we did the year before. In fact, there were 259 right now. September of last year, there were, 216. So 216 versus 259. And more listings are great for buyer choice, but really only if buyers are showing up. You don't want to be a seller on the market forever with no buyers. So let's see what the buyer side, the demand side, is doing in the market right now here in Haslet. Hey, thank you for watching this video so far. If you've been getting some value out of this, I would really appreciate it. Hit that like button down there. Also, I have some free guides in the description with links in the description below. Free home valuation, free market update reports, and a free how to hire your next realtor guide, packed with questions, a decision matrix, spreadsheet, with everything you need to find, interview, and hire your next agent. All right, back to the video. The first up is pending sales. Now, these are homes that went under contract, giving us a real-time look at buyer activity. In September, we had 148 resale homes go under contract, which is 2% less than the year before, with 104 new construction homes going under contract, which is 37% less, with a drop of 20% year over year across both construction types. This is an interesting contrast when you look at the actual number of homes for sale, which is up from last year, but pending sales is down. So we have more homes and less contracts. So that number of homes for inventory is actually going to keep climbing up. Now, this is the homes that went under contract. Let's show you how many homes actually closed and completed the sale. In Haslet, in the month of September, we had 159 homes close and actually sell, which is up 1.3% from the previous year. New construction is down 28%. They only had 116. Combining for all construction types, we are down 13.5%. And this is why I like breaking this out by resale and new construction. You can see that resale is telling a different story than what new construction is as far as being down this year, as far as pending and closed sales. They're also down in inventory, but not as bad as resale. So resale is up in inventory They actually closed a little bit more last year, but not as many as new homes went on the market. The next stat I want to show you on the demand side is days on market. This is how many days it took from the day a listing went active to the day they got their contract. Now, in order to get included in this stat though, they have to have closed, not just the pending sales. Looking at these, we had 38 days for resale and 49 days for new construction. 38 days for resale is still pretty good. So considering that that's just a little bit over a month that most of these homeowners were on the market that actually went ahead and closed. So remembering that we only had 159 sales close last month, I'll come back to days on market. So of those 159 days, the median was 38 days. The average was a little bit more, 53 days. Now thinking about this number as a seller, if you know that the median days on market in Haslet is 38 days and you start getting 2 to 3 weeks in your listing and you haven't received any offers and you haven't really gotten very many showings, you need to start really thinking about how you are marketing and positioning your house compared to the competition. Data shows that the longer you're on the market, the more price drops you have to take to sell your house. So making sure you launch accurately right here in the beginning to maximize your days on market, meaning get it as low as possible. As a seller, even better. As a buyer, this tells you that if you see a home that's been on the market longer than this number, they're probably either about to do a price drop or they're at least willing to negotiate, usually. Sometimes houses stay in the market because the sellers are not willing to negotiate, but that's a whole different story. So my last two stats in the demand side of this are shows per listing and shows to pending. Now the shows to pending one I'm gonna start with, this shows you how many showings it takes to get a home under contract. And right now here in Haslet, the median is 9 showings. This is really important to contrast with shows per listing because this is 2.7. Now shows per listing is a little bit better demonstration of how active the market is because this is how many showings each listing divided out on average gets on the market. When showing this number to my potential sellers, I like to talk about it as a demonstration of the current buyer pool. The larger this number, the larger the buyer pool in comparison to the number of listings. As the number of homes for sale increases, if the buyer pool doesn't also increase, then this number will go down. If the number of buyers that are doing showings increases without the number of listings increasing, then this number will go up. So you want, as a seller, more buyers than listings, obviously. So this number would be much higher. As you can see, it was in 2022 when we had 10.4. And there's that dramatic drop. And now it's cyclical, of course, with the seasons. But each season right now, it's going down. It may not be because the buyer pool is any smaller, but we have seen the number of listings grow. And that's what this number is really telling us, is that the number of buyers per listing is going down. The number of buyers could be down while the listing numbers are up. There's some sort of balance there, but that's what this number is telling us. It's really a great measure of the buyer pool currently. Now, shows per pending is another great number, but it actually, again, once again, showing you only the homes that went under contract. So a much smaller segment of the actual current buyer pool, if that makes sense. And this one does measure listings or showings on those listings that went under contract. So there's the demand side. Let's see how all this plays together when we mix supply and demand. The first number that I really like for this is months of supply. Some people call it the absorption rate. It's really the same number that we're talking about here. And what we're measuring here is how long would it take for all of the current inventory on the market to sell off at the current rate of sale. All that really to say is how many months would it take for us to sell all our current inventory, the number of houses for sale. So here in resale, we're at 6.3 months. Yikes, that's the highest, well, almost highest because it was at 6.5, in July and August. Dropped slightly for September, but 2025 has seen the highest months of supply ever in DFW. So 6.3, that would technically get us into a neutral market, meaning neither the buyer or the seller have the advantage. And I can talk a little bit more about that here in a second. In new construction, we're still down at 2.4. This is a number that builders watch very carefully because they don't want to get where resale is and have their houses sit for way too long. We put this together And we're at 4.3 months of inventory, which is 43% higher from last year, obviously being drug up big time by the resale number. But even the new construction number at 2.4 months is up 20% from last year. This number here is a fantastic indication of what supply and demand really look like in the market right now. The other function of that, and what we all learned in our economics class, is the sales price. Sales price is almost always a function of supply and demand. When you have way too much supply and not enough demand, prices will go down. Now, when you have way more demand than you have supply, prices will go up. Now, real estate is an interesting animal here because prices are downward sticky, meaning once sellers know their home is worth a certain amount, they really don't want to take less unless they absolutely have to. So you're seeing people that are in I need to sell situations like divorce or foreclosure or bankruptcy or, a deceased loved one maybe. In situations where you have to sell, you might take that lower payment or that lower price. However, most of the time you're going to fight that pretty hard. However, when the prices start going up, every seller reaches up as fast as they can. So home prices tend to go up much quicker than they come back down. So here's what's happening with home prices in Haslet. Right now, resale homes are a median of $402,500, which is down 1.8%. Now this makes sense when you think about the numbers we just saw. Inventory for resale is up, pendings are down, and the closed sales are up slightly, but pretty much flat. So you can see that there's more and more listings, but there's not as many homes going under contract or selling as match the new listings. So inventory is growing. So prices are staying flat or declining a little bit. However, with new construction, prices are up almost 16% to $460,000 median. Now, if I switch these to average, obviously we have a little bit higher prices because Haslet does have some very expensive homes in it, the million plus range that pull this number up a little bit. So with new construction, on the average side, we're seeing this number up about 3.8% resale, 472,000. New construction is up 6%, 487,000. These numbers are much closer when we use the averages. And then over all construction types, it's up 4.7%. Now, when I look at this, again, I like median a little bit better. I think it's a little bit more accurate of what's happening in the market for these types of numbers here. And this makes sense when we saw that the months of supply for new construction are still at 2.4. That's still a seller heavy or seller favored market for new construction. Makes sense that their prices are up as well. For resale, a 6.3 is a neutral market. Really, since it's been trending up, it puts buyers in the lead. And that's why you're seeing prices stay flat or declining slightly. So that makes a lot of sense here. So to put all this together, here in Haslet, inventory is rising and prices are staying somewhat flat if you are a seller, which means that you need to get your strategy and your positioning in the market down 100% before you go on market. You only have 38 days to get that house under contract, or you could risk being one of those houses that sits on the market and has to do 5 to 10 price drops trying to beat the market down before you finally find a buyer. And that puts you in a much worse negotiating position. Way better to get it right out of the gate with a proven strategy and method that works. Buyers, you have more choice, more inventory than you have in a while. Whether you go new construction or you go with resale, there's still great options out there. In fact, the time to get really good deals with interest rates currently dropping a little bit, the time is now. Buyers, with inventory up and prices still somewhat steady and flat, and interest rates have dropped over the last couple months, this could be a fantastic time for you to make an offer and get that house that you've been wanting for a while. If you're curious what it could potentially look like to buy now or wait a couple of years, let me know. I would love to run a calculation based on your scenario to show you exactly what that could cost you or could gain you.